So here's a video I never expected I'd have to make. How is Brexit going to affect the record and vinyl industry? Whichever side of the fence you stood on prior to the referendum for the UK leaving the EU, it's clear that there are going to be some pretty serious repercussions, both short term and in the longer term. In the short term, as we see the pound plummet to levels not seen since 1985, we're going to see prices increase pretty dramatically. We've already heard murmurs from a number of labels, smaller and major, saying, yeah, you're going to see prices maybe 5-10% more. Good times. It's difficult to speculate exactly how much prices might go up, and it depends how the pound fluctuates in the next few months. But for what is already a pretty damn expensive format, any additional costs are going to be pretty damn hard to bite down upon, both for shops and consumers, especially in what might become a slightly beleaguered UK economy. But this is all prior to our actual escape from the EU. If the economy bounces back for whatever reason over the next 2 years, then the fallout will be tempered somewhat. If, however, we have another recession, then our flowering, I'm being dramatic, but our flowering music industry could plateau and then even decline as the amount of money consumers have declines and costs increase. It'll be really interesting to see how those same assumptions also affect the hi-fi industry. After all, very little hi-fi is produced in the UK. A weak pound is going to result in pricier amplifiers, pricier speakers, pricier turntables, especially as current UK stock depletes. Will companies like pro-ject from Czech be willing to cut into their margins to keep pace with UK-based companies like Riga Research? So 2 years have passed. The UK, if it still exists, if the Scots haven't done one, has to negotiate new trade deals and all that kind of stuff. Most predictions suggest that with the majority of vinyl in the UK market being cut in the EU, in countries like France, Germany and Czech, and a reduction in free trade being quite likely, price increases are almost inevitable. It could be that your favourite indie label, whose records are most likely cut in the EU, are now buying imports, so they're going to have to pay import duty and VAT on top of those orders, and that could end up costing a whole lot more money, especially on small orders where they can't make up for cut margins. These small labels can't make up for the fact that they're making less money on each unit by selling 2,000 of every record or 20,000 or whatever, like massive labels like Warner Bros and Sony can do. The same thing also could well apply to exports, so those same independent labels will have to pay duties on sending their goods out to the EU. But maybe it's not all doom and gloom. Maybe. Possibly. The UK has very few pressing plants, and we could see a booming record plant industry in the UK if we need to feed our pretty big market, and it might be cheaper to build our own factories, or at least rebuild them, not, you know what I mean. Perhaps this is an opportunity for the UK to build on its fairly minuscule export industry, though on the other hand, I just can't see us becoming competitive with factories in countries like Czech. We just expect too much money, I suspect. Although if Germany and France can do it, then maybe we can. We could also see a greater reliance on US imports. Vinyl is actually really, really cheap in the US. The big kicker is transport. Getting that stuff across the big old Atlantic is actually pretty blooming expensive. I know that just from the single LPs that I bought a brilliant Journey soundtrack, video game soundtrack from I Am 8-Bit. Brilliant pressing, but I think it was $35 for the double or triple LP, which I was fine with. But then $25 just to get it here, which is just a bit. So if we end up ordering a lot more from the US, from their record plants, it could bring down those shipping fees quite a lot, and it could be a good thing in the end. It could end up cheaper. So what can we take away from all of this? Well, it's important to stress that I'm no economist and I don't really have a lot of knowledge in this area, and all my knowledge is very much second hand and taken from other people more knowledgeable. It's entirely speculative. I suspect though that it's not going to be a fun time for our industry, nor for our hobby, and that's probably the biggest shame, that as much as it's going to be really hard for record stores, it's going to be really hard for people getting into the hobby, for kids who you know, 19 quid a pop at a record is already a hell of a lot of money, and for the parents for birthdays and Christmas, that if that goes up to 25, is it going to put people off? I don't know. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different vibed video from what I've normally done. Give me your 2 cents or £2 maybe in the comments down below. Like, I'd be interested to hear other people's take. I know mine's a little bit negative, and I'm sorry for that. If you've enjoyed it though, give me a like. If you want to see more stuff like this, or maybe stuff that's not quite so negative, give me a subscribe to see more stuff like that. I'll thank you very much for watching, and I will hopefully see you around.